In the last 12 months, I've worked directly with over 300 clothing brands. Some were stuck at 5 orders a week. Now they're selling out full drops in hours. Others went from guessing at content to building real brands with 6-figure months. The crazy part, the difference between the brands that scale and the ones that stall isn't luck. It's patterns, behavior, and more importantly, decisions. And today I'm going to be breaking down the 10 lessons I've learned working behind the scenes so that you can skip the mistakes and absolutely move faster. Number one is you don't know your audience like you think you do. So if you're struggling with low conversions, inconsistent sales, or worse, no idea what to post, you probably don't know who your audience is as well as you think that you do. So most brands build for their ideal version of the buyer, not the actual buyer. And I get this a lot because inside of our program, there's the OSO program or Optimized Store Owner. There are these groups of brands who are just starting out, and then the brands who are super successful, they just have more revenue. The ones who don't know how to grow their brands, they create offers and content that sounds good, but it does not convert. And the brands that do know their audience, they're obsessed with learning more every single day. They're so focused on knowing who they are. And inside of the program, we have a document that's like this, and if you've been a part of the channel, you've probably seen it. It's where we go through the 3 stages of what is a struggling avatar. So you have the problem, you have your brand as the solution, and then you have life afterwards. So they have a full breakdown of exactly what are the actual struggles for this audience. And the brands that are successful, even though they think that they don't know their audience, and even though they have success, and even though they've put the time and effort, they are the ones that are going through this. And the brands that say and tell me that they know who their audience are, they won't go through these documents. And it just becomes a vicious cycle of success at this point for the ones who put in the actual work. So do not be like them. Number 2, lesson 2 here is that 7-figure brands move fast, or 6-figure brands, anybody who is trying to make a really good amount of money, they move fast. So one of our clients, they'll go as unnamed here, but it's a brand that out of Ohio is a perfect example of this. We told them their offer needed a new angle, a new approach, and they turned it around in literally 2 days. It would have been better if it was in 1 day. I'm not getting onto them. But in 2 days, they figured out exactly what the offer needed to be. They changed that, and that speed, that willingness to move is the difference between stagnation and scaling. All of this happened beginning of January, and they are completely changing their business now. They've had more success in 1 month than they did multiple months in all of 2024. Okay, and it really comes down to the willingness to move at speed. These brands don't sit on ideas, they execute them fast. And more importantly, they do it and they are agnostic and do not care about the results from it. If it does well, they move on and they continue to do more of it. If it doesn't do well, then they move on and they find that next idea. They move very, very quickly. Lesson 3, it's going to be hard no matter what. All right, so in the beginning stages of this business, and I think Alex Hormozi has a great article or a great design of this, but it's like it's something like this, where like when you first start a business, you like start up here, and it's like I'm super happy. His design may be a little bit different, but it's optimistic entrepreneur, and then you like get into it, and then you realize the business is freaking hard, so you are down here in this valley here, whereas I guess as most people are a lot of the times, right? So it's like you're just starting out, this is new. After a couple of months or 6 months or a year or so, you're down here in this valley and you become pessimistic and you don't think anything's gonna work, it's extremely hard, and then instead of continuing on, you go over here and you get another new idea. Again, the design may be completely different here, but you go after something new. So anyway, instead of being pessimistic and like pushing through and realizing that if you would have just gone through, you'll actually go up, what they do is they go from pessimistic to let me jump to something new. It looks different. It looks like it's the top of the mountain. Looks like this over here where you're happy and you try something different. And then you realize that you're in a valley and this whole thing just basically repeats. And it's the same thing that I went through as well, where I was just like, well, this product isn't working, so let's go create a new one. Instead of figuring out how to market and how to sell and how to get into the minds of the right audience. Again, it's all about the specifics here in this video, the 10 areas that I would tell you to focus on, but you can't just keep jumping when something gets hard. So many people are like, they join our program and they're like, I just thought because you were gonna help us and guide us that this was gonna be easier. And it's like, well, it's gonna save you time. It's gonna help you move faster, but there's still going to be parts that are hard. You're just going to have somebody who's alongside you to help make it easier or move through that tough time faster. So it's always going to be hard, no matter what it is. This is business. This is not it's not a merry-go-round ride where, it's just enjoyable the whole time. I mean, eventually, honestly, if you get old enough, the circles kind of make you sick anyway. So maybe a good analogy for that. But it's going to be hard, and the people who persevere and stick it through, those are the ones who excel. The point is, it's going to be tough either way. The brands that win know that, and they show up anyway. Hey, before we get into this next one, I just wanted to say a quick hey, howdy, and hello. My name is Aaron, and alongside my business partner, Christian, we focus on growing clothing brands for people just like you. We put out new content for you every single week, so I focus on the marketing, the messaging, the advertising, and Christian's forte is really on everything to do with Shopify and themes and messaging, all the design side of things, and we put out new content for you guys every single week. Now look, if you subscribe in the next 3 seconds, I will share with you the most viewed movie from 2003. It is an animated movie, actually. Number 4, successful brands obsess over numbers. Honestly, they don't obsess over a ton of numbers. They obsess over the right numbers, and especially for clothing brands. You know what our best clients all have in common? They know their numbers cold, okay? And what I mean by that is I've jumped on calls with people and I ask them, like, all right, what's your cost to acquire a customer? Don't know. Okay, what is your return on ad spend? Again, not a big fan of like, you gotta have a certain ROAS number, but you should know your numbers. And it's like, okay, they don't know it. What's the conversion rate of your website? Didn't know it. What's the profit margin that you have? Don't have it. So they have none of these numbers and then are wondering why their business isn't growing. They are checking those numbers, they know those numbers, and they look at them every single day. So we have a calculator here that basically breaks down like where do you need to be at as far as your return on ad spend, as far as your cost of goods, your blended return across your business, and just helps you to forecast here. Obviously this is all just made up numbers, but the brands that are most successful, they actually know their numbers. Sometimes they have to use a calculator, but every single day they know there's like 4 or 5 numbers in their business that they care about. Like I said, the main ones that I care about, return on ad spend, your conversion rate of your website, lifetime value, or like CAC divided by LTV, like what is your lifetime value of that business. I also care about the profit margin, so you don't have to look at that one every single day, but you should know your margin. And then how many customers did we get? How many new customers came in? You know what you have to hit every single month to grow the business or to keep the lights on. And this calculator here makes sense. If you want this calculator, just comment the word ROAS down below. I'll know which one it is, and it's more of a volume forecast calculator to help you figure out where you are and where you need to be. So just comment the word ROAS down below. I'll send that over to you. If you're not using something like this, you are literally flying blind, and it is very difficult to grow. Lesson number 5, these successful brands realize that they are a media company that happens to sell clothes. Most people post content like they're showing off a cool shirt. Awesome. But if you want to scale, you need more content, better content, and then new formats constantly. Behind the scenes, education, reaction style clips, face-to-face camera stories. It's about creating value and building an actual brand, building that equity, if you will, not just selling an actual product. And what I mean by that is that as a media company, what would you do? What lens would you put this through versus I'm just selling clothes? If you're only selling clothes, then you're caring about only the best quality material. You're only caring about your COGS or cost of goods. You're only caring about creating photos of your clothes. The problem is most people, most of the time, do not care about your clothes. They would rather be educated, entertained, or a combination of both of those. And so you have to figure out what it is that your audience cares about, going back to lesson number 1, and create content for them. And creating content for that audience is not just selling the actual product. So think of yourself as a media company, not just a clothing brand, not just a boutique, as somebody who's creating content for your audience. They're always asking what's in it for them. Now, if you're watching this thinking, okay, this is starting to get me thinking, I'm starting to realize what my downfalls are or the opportunities, I like to think of positive, for what needs to happen in my business, good. I want you to win. But here's the thing, our strategy calls aren't unlimited. So this is a great video. I love YouTube, but at the end of the day, you may need a little bit more help than that. So you can check out the link in the description down below. We have a few spots that are open, so you can go a little bit deeper into it with your brand. We'll work with you in a conversational space where it's more like a one-on-one. So if you're ready to get clarity and traction, check out the link in the description down below. Book a free call with our team. Obviously, the spots are limited. All right, so number 6 is to recreate the wheel, even if it is working. The brands that grow consistently, they're not afraid to rebuild, even when something's working. They treat the success like a prototype, something to improve. They're not attached to one way of winning. Great example of this, saw a ton of brands doing really well on TikTok early 2020, told them to continue to do that. And those brands are very successful now, built audiences, moved people off of TikTok, grew their email list, SMS list, and have very successful brands. Other ones stuck to only posting on Facebook and only posting on Instagram. Are they still around? Some of them are, but most of them are still struggling. And today, right now, they're really in a tough position because they are over leveraged on one platform. In 2020, I told a bunch of people to do live selling, to create a personality with their brand, that people are going to buy from a personality and they are not going to buy from a brand. And the people who started doing embrace the live selling, doing very well right now. 7-figure months, 8-figure plus businesses, not all of them, but 8-figure plus businesses. The ones who have not are starting to get into the mold, are starting to do live selling now, but they've lost years and years and years of time where they'll maybe make some traction. The good brands always do, but it's just harder, right? It's much easier to ride this wave than it is to try to climb back up the mountain. So please do not get attached to this is the way we run our business and it has to be this way, and it's very, very rigid. Lesson number 7, the best brands get help early. My goodness, we were very stubborn. I'll just talk to you in 2 ways. Number 1, the very early stages in our business, we thought we could just use YouTube University as well, and we would figure it out on our own. And to be honest, we probably would have, and we did figure out a ton of it on our own. I think we did a lot of things right, but it took us, a good 3 years or so before we're like, we should probably hire some coaches. It took us that long to realize we needed somebody else to give us a 30,000-foot view, tell us what's going on with the business, why it's not working. And guess what? It wasn't that we weren't going to find out the answers. You guys can find out the answers from watching a video like this, but it is so much faster. When I say this, I truly mean this, is like speed is the difference here, especially as the world continues to change with AI. You doing it eventually is a commodity, right? Speed is the name of the game here. And so what it did was it allowed coaches, we actually have 2 of them, to be brought in and show us the blind spots in our business so we could get those alleviated, get those fixed, and then completely change the direction of our business. It just took us a long time to do it. But I will tell you that if you are somebody who is very stubborn, who is very stuck in their ways, who wants to figure it out on their own, and you can grind it out and figure it out on your own, I am you, and you are very much like me. Please do not wait years to just go ask for the help, raise your hand, and get somebody else to help you make the decisions faster. No business is ever built solo, and it is much, much easier on you and your family, depending on who you are, for you to just do this faster. Trying to figure everything out on your own, noble to a degree, but the winners collapse time by learning from others. It's just as simple as that. All right, so number 8 here is margin equals mission fuel. Really, margin is the only thing that matters, right? I know you care about giving back. A lot of people and a lot of you guys want to donate to causes, help your community, or fund an impact. I am a big fan of that. I love helping that out and I love making impact. I think it's very selfish on my end because I enjoy doing it. So there is a selfish act to that as well. However, it's very difficult to help somebody if you don't put on your oxygen mask first. The truth is, without margin, you won't be around to help anybody. Turns out that if you try to take $0 from zero, it's still not enough to help somebody else. You have to have margin within your business. And great brands obsess over quality and margin, because margin is what lets you sustain the mission and sustain the brand and stick around for years so that you can actually serve people. You cannot go out and actually help somebody if there's not margin in the business, if you don't have profitability, if you don't have the ability to give from your excess funds to help others in the future. So please make sure that you pack in margin in your business. Kind of a side note here, safe range to be in for clothing brands, boutiques, and streetwear. I want you to be between 60 to 80% cost of goods, or profit margin, sorry. Your cost of goods should be about 30 to 30% or so. Is like that kind of that sweet range, 30-40% max on the range there. But really want you 60, 70, 80% profit margins. It's a good place to be. Lesson number 9, if you can see this, I'm just saying personality is greater than product. Your product can be fire. It can be amazing. But if no one knows who's behind the brand, it'll blend in for the most part. I mean, there can be some amazing looking products. I've seen a lot of cool streetwear brands. The game is changing right now where personality is extremely important. Now, 80% of people may just love the design and move on. But the 20% who love the actual product and love the story behind it and love the personality will be the 80% of the sales. And they'll tell the friends who tell the friends who tell the friends about the cool story. And there's a video that's eventually coming out on this channel, if it's not out already, about Dad Gang and the story behind that. And I will just tell you that so many people bought into Dad Gang, and you've probably heard of it because of the stories, right? The stories behind it, the mission behind those things. That's why people buy, right? So personality sells. The brands that scale, they show their face, their story, they share their why. If you want to grow, pull out the phone, share the personality, show the brand. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be you as the owner, but you got to be out there. You got to be front facing. You can't hide behind a brand because, again, personality trumps product every single time. Lesson number 10, be number one at what makes you different. Trying to be better than the competition, that's a losing game. You win by being different. So there's a great example of this. It's called the Savannah Bananas. You may have heard of them, you maybe not have heard of them, but there's a book out there called Get Different by Mike Michalowicz. And in that book, he has a great example of the Savannah Bananas, a AA or AAA baseball team out of Savannah, Georgia. And it's just a baseball team, but they have so much fun. They go viral all of the time, and you've probably seen them on Instagram or TikTok where they do dances and they bring in people. They just had Travis Hunter on. They have so many cool things that go on there, and they're just different. It's just a baseball game, and they are a AA, AAA, but they get more attention and more views than like the Texas Rangers or the Kansas City Royals or like the Boston Red Sox because they're different. They are not better than those baseball teams. They are not MLB players. They are not Major League. They get the viewership. They also get the sponsorships. They also get the attention, which allows them to bring in players, which is kind of a bet success, right? And it's all because they're different. So you need to carve a lane that is so you, no one else can touch it. Be number one in your category, even if you have to invent the category to begin with. Go so niche into your audience and into your brand and find out what is different so that you can be number one in that space. Probably hard. There's a reason for that. Now look, you've got the mindset, you've got the playbook, you've got these 10 lessons. The next step to make this brand work for you is traffic. Go watch this video on how to run Instagram ads for clothing brands right here next. All right, y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time, and P.S. make sure you subscribe.